from highly toxic bacteria-filled blobs falling from the sky to kill us, to real-life stories documented inside the emergency room of a mysterious substance appearing out of a human and causing everyone around to immediately pass out, to what seems to be the Hulk smashing people on snowy mountainsides. These are the top 10 most unexplainable and mysterious events on Earth. Number 10. It begins by raining inside. This might be one of the more insane mysteries I've heard. While on a prison furlough to attend a funeral, Donnie Decker was visiting with friends in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, when he suddenly went into a trance. Rain began allegedly falling from the ceiling of the room. His friend, not knowing what to make of it, I mean, I would have no idea how to react to this, called the landlord over to investigate. But the landlord was equally puzzled, especially when rain started falling up from the floor and even sideways. They called the police, who also couldn't figure out what was happening, and who were additional witnesses to Donnie being thrown against walls and having claw marks appear on his skin. When Donnie went back to jail, he experimented with his new ability, making it rain in his cell and even in the warden's office. This is so crazy. Things finally started to calm down when a minister came and apparently prayed with him for hours until he somehow came to the conclusion that his abusive grandfather had come back to abuse him by giving him the ability to make it rain indoors. It's kind of a weird way to haunt someone. I kind of wish my grandfather would come and haunt me and give me special magical powers. Actually, I kind of take that back. It sounds incredibly freaky for that to happen. Number 9. Infected with the Otherworldly? Cold-cocked by the Andromeda strain? That's what may have happened to some doctors who treated Gloria Ramirez, whom checked into the emergency room of the Riverside General Hospital in Riverside, California. Upon attempting to stabilize her and treat her symptoms, medical personnel noticed an oily substance accompanied by a garlic-like smell coming from Gloria's body, and an ammonia-like smell coming from a sample of her blood. A medical resident passed out after viewing a beige-colored substance in the blood sample. Soon, 2 other personnel also passed out. The ER was immediately evacuated and a small team stayed behind to continue working on Gloria, but she died from kidney failure. Plenty of theories have surfaced since the 1994 incident, but neither the autopsy nor the toxicology reports were ever proven conclusive in determining the cause of this strange event. And this is one of the reasons I could never be a doctor. Number 8. Hulk Smash. In Russia, it's 1959 in the Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, and 10 hikers embark on a cross-country trip. 1 returns early because of illness, and 9 are later found dead by rescuers. But there's something odd. Even though there are no signs of struggle, what is alarming is the injuries. Fractured bones, and even a missing tongue, but no external damage. The hikers had even exited from one of the tents by cutting it open from the inside with a knife, as if they were in such a frenzy they didn't even have time to unzip the tent door. Their packs, clothing, and even their shoes and socks were still inside the tents, and their bodies were contaminated with high amounts of radiation. Just what could have panicked these travelers so badly that they had chosen to cut their way out of their tents and brave the cold with no shoes and some with no clothing, and then be covered in radiation? This might not be the best theory, but the only thing I can think of that would cause such a massacre and leave his victims covered in radiation would be the Hulk. Number 7. It's Raining Blobs. It's the summer of 1994 in Oakville, Washington, and residents were surprised to see something very eerie falling from their skies. People noticed that the rain that day was different, and that it came down as clear, gelatinous blobs. Days later, nearly everyone in town was suffering from severe flu-like symptoms, in some cases even lasting for months. A lab finally analyzed samples of the goo and found it to contain 2 types of highly infectious and dangerous bacteria. Oakville is in a pretty isolated area of Washington state, so some people wonder if maybe the government or some bioweapons company was using them as lab rats for their own tests. I mean, the government has been known to do that. Number 6. Do you hear the hum? If you hear a constant humming noise that you just can't explain, you're not alone. It might be what's called the hum. People, especially in Taos, New Mexico, have contended with a low-frequency humming noise they can't explain other than to say it sounds like a diesel engine. Variations of the hum have also been heard all over the world and have even been mapped. Some have called the louder, higher-pitched version the, quote, end of days hum for its trumpet-like sound that seems to be announcing the coming of a heavenly host. Others consider it to be the result of magma activity deep under the Earth's crust and an indication that the Earth's poles are about to flip positions. In places where people claim to hear the hum, only about 2% of the population hear it, but it's been mapped out all over the world and said that once you hear the hum, you can never unhear it. Number 5. Teleporting in 1593. When someone says the word teleportation, we often think of Star Trek beaming Captain Kirk to the Enterprise. Rarely do we consider that teleportation happened in the past, in the far past. But in 1593, Gil Perez was a soldier in Manila guarding the governor's mansion just after said governor had been assassinated. Maybe it was all the excitement around the event. Maybe it was the heat. But allegedly, Gil leaned against the wall and closed his eyes for just a moment. Suddenly, he found himself in an unfamiliar place surrounded by unfamiliar people. After asking quite a few questions and freaking out a bit, as I would, he discovered himself to be in Mexico City on the same day and at the exact same moment he had closed his eyes. Local officials, not believing his story about the Philippines governor's assassination, put him in jail for 2 months. I mean, imagine teleporting to Mexico City and being put in jail. It's just a bad 2 months. At which point, a ship arrived from the Philippines with news of the assassination. This gave Gil some credibility, and I suppose people accepted what he said had happened to him. But he was sent back home on that ship and lived out a normal life. Although, I'm not sure how normal of a life it was considering he had randomly teleported across the planet in the 1500s. It's also pretty weird that a story like this originated before really even the idea of teleportation was invented. Number 4. Massive UFO follows plane. Flight 1628 was a Japanese freight aircraft flying over Alaska in November of 1986. The pilots together had more than 30 years of experience in observation, but they were unprepared for what they were about to see next. A pair of lights suddenly appears on the horizon, and they report it to the Anchorage Air Traffic Control. They approached and then closely followed the Japanese plane, and one of the objects was 2 to 3 times the size of Flight 1628, if not bigger. For the next 50 minutes, which, can you imagine dealing with that for 50 minutes while you're flying this plane? Both Air Traffic Control and Flight 1628 communicate about the object they are seeing on radar and visually. The pilots worked tirelessly to shake the unknown aircraft off their flight path, but every move they made was matched by the flying objects, seemingly without effort on their part. Not only was this encounter independently confirmed by both pilot and radar, at that point in history, the sighting represented the most time in recorded history that UFOs appeared on both military and non-military air traffic control systems. So something was definitely there. It was reported in the news media as well, but as you might guess, the FAA reported that the object's appearance was unconfirmed. Number 3. And suddenly, a lake. In the middle of the hot and dry summer of 2014, some local shepherds came upon a lake about 2.5 acres wide and between 30 to 40 feet deep, which wasn't there before. I'm sure they were pretty confused and stunned, as how does a lake just show up out in the middle of nowhere? Scientists say it could have been a ruptured aquifer, but no evidence has been found of it to date. At the time, and still, officials keep trying to warn hot and dry Tunisians away from the lake because the water quality needs to be tested. They have no idea where this thing came from, but that doesn't seem to stop them from enjoying a swim in 104 degrees Fahrenheit drought conditions. Number 2. Neutron stars, black holes, and Japanese trees. What do neutron stars, black holes, and Japanese cedar trees have to do with each other? Uza Miyake, a cosmic ray physicist from Nagoya University in Japan, was studying tree ring data to look for evidence of big cosmic events using carbon dating techniques. And he found one. Approximately 775 AD was a big year for tree growth, largely due to a spike in carbon-14 detected in the rings of Japanese cedar trees. The increased width of the rings showed that rise was due to cosmic rays creating a surplus of carbon-14. Trees like carbon dioxide and are made of carbon, so the surplus led to greater growth between 774 and 775 AD. Okay, this is getting pretty deep into some science, but what it means in terms of proof is pretty profound. It's showing that something of cosmic ray origin blasted our planet a very long time ago, like a supernova event or something. The theory of this cosmic ray origin ranges from, as I stated before, a supernova event in a galaxy far, far away to being the collision of two very heavy neutron stars in our own galaxy. If it was a supernova though, if we were to see one of those today, it would almost be like we had a second sun. It would be one of the coolest things ever to see. Number 1. Mile-wide UFOs. This is number 1 for a very simple reason. It just really scares me. In February 2007, pilot, his passengers, and 2 radar ground stations spotted and tracked a mile-wide UFO for 55 minutes. Pilot Ray Bauer, who had over 20 years flying experience, observed the yellow, cigar-shaped craft as he was flying over the Channel Islands towards Germany. It had the appearance of a CD disc when you looked at it edge on. At first, he thought it was only about 10 miles away and the size of about a 737 aircraft, but later he realized it was actually 40 miles away, and thus was actually about a mile wide. Seeing a UFO about a mile wide in the sky, I don't even know how I would react to that. I do want to know how you guys would react to that, so leave a comment in the section below. Unfortunately though, a report was made about this incident, but parts of the report were missing in the final publication, which is something that frustratingly seems to occur extremely way too often for events like this. I'm only just starting to have fun with you. Check out our top 10 Nazi secret superweapons video or our top 10 creepiest science experiments video. Everyone else already has, just like they've also clicked subscribe so they don't miss out on any other future crazy, mysterious, and strange videos being published very soon.